Movie sequels typically occur when a studio wishes to cash in on unexpected successes without investing too much effort or money. The first one did well, let's do the same thing again but add a 2 at the end and then recast. Though some franchises have hugely successful sequels, introducing new and original ideas such as Halloween, Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street, others fall short. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 worst horror movie sequels of all time. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. Let's jump in. Coming in at 5, American Psycho 2 All American Girl 2002. Also known more aptly as American Psycho 2, this sequel directed by Morgan J. Freeman is a horror black comedy starring Mila Kunis and William Shatner. Quite the pair, I know. The plot follows a girl named Rachel Newman who has developed a taste for murder and will stand at nothing to become a college professor's assistant. Honestly, even reading the plot hurts my soul. The film was adapted from a script titled The Girl Who Wouldn't Die and was originally conceived as a thriller with no association whatsoever with American Psycho. I wish it had stayed that way, and I think everyone else does too. It wasn't until production began that the film's script was altered to include the Patrick Bateman subplot. The film was such a failure it received 11% on Rotten Tomatoes, with Rob Gonzalez stating, I quote, "American Psycho 2 wasn't even supposed to be an American Psycho sequel, for Christ's sake." Lionsgate noticed that the first film got critical acclaim and didn't do too poorly in theaters, so they dusted off an unrelated script and modified it to link it tenuously to the first film. As you would expect, Mila Kunis faced a lot of embarrassment when the film came out, humiliated that the film was linked to such a cult classic. I quote, "Please somebody stop this, write a petition. When I did the second one, I didn't know it would be American Psycho 2. It was supposed to be a different project and it was re-edited. Yikes. Sucks to be Mila, I guess." Coming in at 4, Pet Sematary 2 1992. Directed by Mary Lambert, Pet Sematary 2 is the sequel to the 1989 film Pet Sematary and stars Edward Furlong, Anthony Edwards and Clancy Brown. Following the accidental death of his mother Renee, 13-year-old Jeff Matthews and his veterinarian father Chase moved to Ludlow, Maine, his mother's hometown, where he is introduced to the story of the Creed family and the legend of the infamous burial grounds. The film is essentially attempting to rehash what made the original movie so great, however, it does this without any new or original ideas. All in all, new undead victims rise up out of the Indian cemetery and seek revenge on the living. Same old, same old. It currently holds a steady 24% on Rotten Tomatoes with an average 3.8 out of 10. The film fails to tell any kind of coherent story and lacks any real character development, and instead seems too busy perfecting its special effects. Kevin Thomas of the LA Times wrote, I quote, "Not nearly as scary as the 1989 original. It nonetheless expresses and attempts to resolve in bold mythological terms the anxiety of being 13. I'm not here for that. Like I always say when it comes to Pet Sematary, sometimes dead is better, and this film proves that. Don't waste your time. If you want to watch the same thing done correctly, just watch the original." Coming in at 3, Jaws The Revenge 1987. Also known as Jaws 4 The Revenge or Jaws 4, this trash bag of a movie was produced and directed by Joseph Sargent and starred Lorraine Gary, Lance Guest, Mario Van Peebles and Michael Caine. Yeah, the one and only Michael Caine. The plot focuses on a now widowed Ellen Brody and her conviction that a great white shark is seeking revenge on her family, particularly when it kills her son and follows her to the Bahamas. The film was of course heavily panned by critics and by me, which likely counts for more, in my opinion. Unlike the 3 other films in the Jaws series, Jaws The Revenge was made in less than 9 months, according to associate producer and production manager Frank Bauer. During the sequel's filming, I quote, "This will be the fastest I have ever seen a major film planned and executed in all of my 35 years as a production manager." That says a lot. The film to this day remains one of the few to hold a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, with an average rating of 2 out of 10. Respect. The film as a whole was illogical and lacked any sort of tension, and had perhaps some of the worst special effects I've ever seen in cinema. Roger Ebert stated, I quote, "It is not simply a bad movie but also a stupid and incompetent one. And honestly guys, that's all you really need to know. It is pretty much just a laughable B-level horror movie with a splash of Michael Caine romance thrown into the mix. Makes no sense." Coming in at 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre The Next Generation 1995. You probably haven't heard of this movie, and that's okay. You will find out why very soon. Texas Chainsaw Massacre The Next Generation was released in 1995 and starred Renee Zellweger, Matthew McConaughey and Robert Jacks as Leatherface. The plot follows four teens who encounter Leatherface and his murderous family in backwoods Texas on the night of their prom. The film was screened before being ultimately shelved by Columbia Pictures. 2 years later though, it was recut and released long after Zellweger and McConaughey had both become major Hollywood stars. However, the film was still a critical failure and was the final installment in the series. To quote a very apt commentator on IMDb, "Watching this movie is like having someone kick you in the head for 2 hours only to find out that you have just survived the warm-up session and the worst is yet to come." Straight savagery, right? Upon the movie's release, much of the critical reviews focus on the lead performances of Zellweger and McConaughey. Janet Maslin of the New York Times wrote, I quote, "It was way back in '95 that his schlocky horror face, then known as Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, first appeared with the unknown actors Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger in starring roles. But even in a film whose principal props include little old pizza slices and a black plastic trash bag, it's clear that these two were going places. Honestly, this film is an absolute train wreck and should be avoided at all costs. If you want to watch a good movie, watch the original or even the Jessica Biel version. In my opinion, I think that's the better one. Come for me." Finally, coming in at number 1, Exorcist 2, The Heretic, 1977. If you're not familiar with Exorcist 2 or even aware that there was a sequel or multiple, don't fret. That's okay, you well and truly dodged a bullet. Exorcist 2 was released back in '97 and followed an older Reagan, once possessed by a demon, who finds that it still lurks within her. Meanwhile, a priest investigates the death of the girl's exorcist. Of course, being a sequel to a movie that was hailed as one of the greatest horror films of all time is tough. However, some sequels work out, surprisingly. This one, however, fell short and is so bad that many prefer to classify it as an unintentional comedy. Reprising her role as Reagan McNeil, the film stars Linda Blair, Richard Burton, and James Earl Jones. The film received strongly negative response, with audiences even laughing at its premiere in New York City. Surprisingly though, writer of the novel and director of Exorcist 3, William Peter Blatty, claimed to have been the first person to start laughing at the theatre in which he saw the film, only to be followed by everyone else. Director of the first Exorcist, William Friedkin, even recalled hearing a story in which angry audience members chased down Warner Brothers executives on the street within the first 10 minutes of the screening. He went on to state, I quote, "I was at a Technicolor and a guy said, 'We just finished a print of Exorcist 2, do you want to have a look at it?' And I looked at half an hour of it, and I thought it was as bad as seeing a traffic accident in the street. It was horrible. It's just a stupid mess made by a dumb guy. John Borman by name, somebody who should be nameless but in this case should be named." Whoa. Shots fired by Friedkin, but I respect that. As of right now, Exorcist 2, The Heretic has a 3.8 out of 10 on IMDb and 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. Sucks. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any terrible horror movie sequels that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before we go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 scary mysteries Ed and Lorraine Warren could have solved. Stench of Fear said, "I came here to find horror, instead I found Lucy. Now I know the definition of true fear." You're a very smart man. Never forget it. Amanda Evans said, "I have an inkling Miss Lucy wasn't taking this video very seriously." I take every video seriously, but sometimes you have to be able to laugh at yourself and at some of the topics you discuss. As in Ed and Lorraine Warren. Frauds. A beautiful twisted mind said, "All hail the pale cryptid known as Queen Lucy. She invades your dreams, steals your soul, and leaves you a husk of your former self." Whew. Preaching the hard facts there. I'm always here. When you close your eyes, lurking, watching. Always. Jennifer Ackrey said, "Oh Lucy, you are fabulous. I have a huge fangirl crush for you and I am way too old for such a thing. Anyway, I love your attitude. You are a badass." Well, shucks. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate the fangirl crush regardless of your age. But how old are you really? Like over 50? If you're older than my mum, it's kind of weird. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And until next time, see you later.